something has changed here. Something that is going to alter the Celtics' path in these NBA playoffs and take them to a championship. You really can't begin to solve a problem, whether that's in a marriage, in a relationship, professionally, whatever it is, until it's put out there, until the communication about the issue is put out on the table for everybody to kind of embrace and acknowledge and accept. I've been saying for years that the Celtics have had problems at the end of games. I've been asking all year long this year, why hasn't Joe Mazzulla been asked about this? Or why haven't we heard more about this from the head coach? Or why aren't we talking about this more in press conferences or just in general? Based on what I've heard over the course of the last few weeks, months, etc., the narrative is now officially out there. The issues that have plagued the Boston Celtics ultimately are on the table. They are out there for the world to hear, for Jason Tatum to hear, for Jaylen Brown to hear, for Brad Stevens to hear, for ownership to hear. Now, they knew what those issues were, but now that you hear it in unison, it's a different dynamic. They're going to hear all that noise, the Boston Celtics. They're going to feel a certain way about what people are saying, and I think there is a good chance the Celtics go into the playoffs, despite the historic regular season, the 64 wins, 37-4 at home. They're going to find a way to go into the playoffs feeling like underdogs. And they're getting disrespected left and right. I think that's a beautiful thing for this team. This team, lest we forget, is still the most talented team in the NBA. Okay? When you do that to the most talented team in the league, that is playing with some serious fire for the rest of the NBA. I think this is going to change the way they operate, the way they think, the way they practice, the way they approach games, the way they execute, even down the stretch of the most difficult situations in the biggest games. It's out there now. I felt like before, some people were talking about it, maybe more locally, maybe, people like me that don't have the biggest platforms or the biggest names or other people, they'd write about it. Now it's out there. Ex-players are talking. I think it's a big deal. You're still talking about the most not the most popular, the most talented team in the league. Okay? And you're talking about a team that is looking at an Eastern Conference with question marks all up and down the coast. There's a real good chance that this team could cruise through the Eastern Conference. Maybe not real good. There's a good chance that could happen. And they'll get tested. Granted, they will be tested in the NBA Finals. But if you're going to approach them like some sort of underdog, like some sort of team that hasn't proven more than all these other teams that they're hyping up, or more than some of these other players that they're hyping up, Jalen Brunson, that's a dangerous game for the rest of the NBA. I think you're forgetting some things. I think you're forgetting about Jason Tatum and what he did in Game 6 in Milwaukee in 2022. I think you're forgetting about what Tatum did against the Sixers in that series last year and the 50-point explosion and what he did at the end of whatever that was, Game 6, when he'd been bad all night and he turned it on late. And I've been as critical as anyone towards Jason Tatum and this team's ability to close and finish off series and all of the above. But if you come at them in this way, and you got Shaq out there talking about they're overrated, and you got Jokic or Jamal Murray talking about how Murray and Jokic are the best duo in the NBA, and not even mentioning Brown and Tatum, not even bringing them up. Kendrick Perkins talking about the lack of consistency and how Jalen Brunson's a better player right now than Jason Tatum. There are points being made that I don't disagree with, but now it's out there. Now it's undeniable. Before, the narrative was present, But people weren't talking about it like this. This is still a mentally tough team with mentally tough players. Sometimes, yes, they can get in their own head. And that's been their downfall. Jason Tatum has said things this year even that I have not liked. Being willing to be a passenger in a game against Nikola Jokic in Denver because other guys were feeling it or whatever he said. That was absolutely the wrong approach. But you can't start trashing. And that's what people are doing. They're trashing the Celtics right now. They've earned more respect than that. They have earned more respect than that. And if we're going to break down Rick Bucher's comments a little bit more intimately, what are you talking about, Rick? That they haven't gone through some of the trials and tribulations, that they had it easy this year? I'm sorry. They have done nothing but go through those hard times and go through the growing pains over the course of the last 2-3 seasons. So what did they do? They made some adjustments, bold adjustments, by the way. Marcus Smart, Brad Stevens doing what he had to do to improve the roster, and they earned every win they got this year. They've earned the position they're in. Okay, and if you're going to talk about them the way that you're going to talk about them, I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that Rick Bucher is making bad points. I'm not saying that Kendrick Perkins doesn't have a point when he criticizes Jason Tatum. Now, to say Jason Tatum is better than, or that Jalen Brunson is better than Jason Tatum, I disagree all day long with that one. But if you want to get on Tatum for the lack of consistency, I agree. Not good enough. I agree with that. If Shaq wants to call the Celtics overrated because they aren't consistent, they haven't finished the job, fine. I'm cool with that. But now that narrative is out there. And you're putting all this negative energy on a team that has gone through the growing pains, that has the experience, that has the superstar, that has the best record in the NBA, and by far the most talent. I think the fact that this is out there now is going to change something within this team. They are going to take that, they are going to use it, and we are going to see a little bit of a different type of scenario unfold at the end of games, during closeout games, that maybe we haven't seen before, because you're messing with some of the most talented guys in the league. Don't forget that. Because if that talent finds a groove and a rhythm, that is a dangerous situation for the rest of the NBA. And now that the narrative is out there, anything is possible with this team.